Hey everybody out there, this is Seto, and today guys we're going to talk about, is having too much of a diverse format a good thing or a bad thing in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh? Looking at it more from a, I guess you could say, competitive standpoint, but we're going to look at both sides of the coin in this video. Now, I got the idea for this video by watching other fellow Yu-Gi-Tubers talk about it, and I thought it was actually a topic worth discussing and worth talking about to some degree. So that is why I'm doing today's video. So, first off, thinking about it, I actually do prefer diverse formats. That means that you can play a whole variety of different decks and be very successful in competitive play or competitive tournaments. But looking at it from a competitive standpoint, I also can say that it kind of does have its downsides. Granted, I do like the idea that you can play multiple decks and have the potential to top. I mean, currently, post-Duelist Alliance, we still have Stellar Knights as considered a #1 deck. We have Burning Abyss, that came out of nowhere to be a #1 deck. And we also have Shaddolls. But on the flip side, you also have all these other, I guess you should say, decks that are still really good that you can top with. Light Swarms, Mermails are still around to some degree, Spellbooks are still around to some degree, Dragon Ruler variations are around to still some degree. I mean, there's a whole, I can name off a huge list of decks that are still being played in tournaments competitively. And if you think about it in that perspective, saying, oh my gosh, all these decks I got to side against, it does become somewhat overwhelming. But you have to think of side deck cards that can hurt multiple decks, like Light Imprisoning Mirror or Shadow Imprisoning Mirror or Debunk can hurt multiple decks. And that's where I think, in a way, you have to know Yu-Gi-Oh! You have to know your opponent's decks, like I talked before. So you can put side deck cards in your side deck that can affect multiple decks, like Rivalry of the Warlords can hit multiple decks out there. Gozen's Match can hit multiple decks out there. So knowing your deck and knowing your opponent's deck, like I said before, you can side deck properly for what, you know, a majority of decks you will be going against. So when you're going into your side deck in Game 2, you can say, okay, he's playing X deck. Well, these cards hit X deck, so I can put these cards in my main deck now and be able to combat his deck better. That is something I think that just takes some time and skill to learn the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! But, I mean, I guess you could say, in a way, it's a good thing and a bad thing that there's a very diverse format. I mean, granted, the format's about to end, so in 2 weeks from now, we may say this completely different. There may just be, you know, just a few decks left over after this ban list, October 1st ban list. It could be, they could hit a whole bunch of decks, and then you weren't, you know, it becomes a less diverse format. But what do you think? Do you like diverse formats? Do you not like diverse formats? Like I said, personally, I like them because you can play a multitude of different decks and be very successful in tournament play. But granted, you have to look at the downside too, where you have to prepare yourself for multiple decks, the possibility of running into multiple decks. And I think in that situation, you have to know your deck and know what decks you have the potential of facing against. So you have to know what your tier 1 decks you're definitely probably going to be facing against, and even some tier 2 decks that are really popular, like Bujins, Mermails, decks like that are still being played in a competitive setting. You still have to side deck accordingly to those. Plus, you have to still find, to some degree, side deck cards that can hit multiple decks that you would probably run into in a tournament. So that's just my thoughts on a diverse format, the pros and cons, I guess you could say. And until next time, guys, take care, have fun dueling, good luck dueling, and tell me down below, guys, do you like a really diverse format where there's a multitude of decks you can play, and there's not just one deck you can play, like an E-Dragon format or Spellbook format, or going back even further to Teledad, Teledad either Part 1 or Teledad Part 2, where you pretty much had to play those decks to win, or there's only a 1 to 2 winner. Do you like it more diverse, or you like it when it's just 1 or 2 decks that you have to play if you want to top? Granted, please don't take that in the wrong sense. I'm saying you have to play those decks, but if you understand what I'm trying to say, if you understand where I'm coming from, hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say. So till next time, guys, take care, everybody. Seto Kaba, I'm out for you guys. Till next time.